a young nurse, a secret letter, and a girl whose gold earrings could send someone to prison. When Jennifer's brother gets caught up with a dangerous man, one night at Maxim's changes everything. Chapter 1. Trouble at Maxim's. Jennifer looked at the clock on the wall. It was almost 8:30. The light was still on in Dr. Gibson's room. I'm going to be late, she thought. Why doesn't he finish? Thursday evenings were always busy at the clinic, but tonight was worse than usual. She quickly put the newspapers away and took off her white coat. She locked it in the cupboard and began turning off the lights. Just then, the front doorbell rang. Oh no, she sighed. Not another patient now. She ran to the door and opened it. Outside, it was dark. A man stood there with his hands in his pockets. When he moved his head, the light fell on his face. Richard, Jennifer said in surprise. What are you doing here? Can I come in for a minute? He asked, and walked past her without waiting for an answer. Jennifer closed the door and turned to him. Usually she was happy to see her brother, but this time she was in a hurry. I'm sorry, Richard, you can't stay. I'm meeting Claire for dinner and... She stopped. Richard looked tired and worried. What's wrong? She asked. From inside his room, Dr. Gibson called out, Did I hear the doorbell, nurse? Is it another patient? No, it's only my brother Richard, she answered. So what's the matter? She asked again. Richard shook his head. It's nothing serious. I just had some trouble at work. I said something my boss didn't like, and he got angry. In the end, he told me to leave. I lost my job. Oh, Richard, not again. Jennifer sighed. Why do you always do this? And now you have no money, right? Take it easy, Jenny. I just need £20. I'll pay you back next week, I promise. He smiled and touched her arm. It's for a present. Yes, yes, Jennifer said sadly. A present for a special girl like last time and the time before. She knew her brother's ways, but she could never refuse him. She opened her bag, took out the money, and handed it to him. All right, but I want it back next week. Richard smiled and put an arm around her. Thanks, Jenny. This time it's different. She's really special. But you're in a hurry, so I'll go now. Don't forget, next week, she called after him. Maxim's restaurant was full of people office workers, students, theatre folk, and some older couples. Jennifer looked for her friend Claire. She usually sat near the window, but tonight that side was crowded with a birthday party. Then Jennifer heard a familiar voice behind her. Did you get lost? I've been waiting for hours. I know I'm late, Jennifer said, laughing. The clinic was busy. The last patient left at 8:30, and then Richard came. He wanted to borrow money again. They found a free table, and a waiter took their order. Suddenly, a loud cheer came from the birthday group. An older man in a grey suit stood up and raised his glass. Everyone looked at a young girl with big gold earrings and sang, "Happy birthday to you." But the girl didn't smile. When the song ended, there was more cheering and laughter. Someone shouted, 21 today, and soon the whole restaurant joined in. Then came a crash. Glass broke. Someone screamed, and a voice shouted, "Bring a towel quickly!" The man in the grey suit had fallen across the table. His face was red with blood, and broken glass lay everywhere. "What happened?" someone cried. "Did he fall?" "It's his heart, you know," said another. Joe's been in and out of hospital for years. His head hit those glasses, someone whispered. The man was still lying across the table. Jennifer quickly stood up, and she and Claire ran to help. "We're nurses," Jennifer said. "Can we do anything?" The man had a deep cut on his face, and blood was running fast. A waiter brought a towel, and Jennifer pressed it against the cut. The man's mouth was open, and he was making strange sounds. "He needs a doctor. We must take him to the hospital," Jennifer said. She turned to Claire. "You came by car, didn't you?" "Yes, come on," said Claire. "We'll take him." They helped the man outside and put him in Claire's car. Jennifer sat beside him and held the towel to his face. The bleeding slowed, and he began to move. Where are we going?" he asked weakly. "Are you taking me home?" "Don't talk," said Jennifer gently. "You fell and hurt yourself. You'll be all right, but you must see a doctor. We'll be at the hospital soon." When he heard the word hospital, the man suddenly tried to sit up. "No, no," he said sharply. "I don't need a hospital. I'm feeling better now. Just take me home. And who are you?" "I'm a nurse," Jennifer told him. "You need a doctor. We're nearly there, so please sit still and be quiet." But the man didn't listen. He pulled at Jennifer's arm. "I don't need a doctor," he said loudly. "It's only a small cut. I'm fine. Take me home." When she didn't answer, his voice softened. "Please listen to me. I really am all right. They'll keep me there because of my bad heart, and I have an important meeting in 2 days. Please stop the car. I'll take a taxi home." By then, the car had already reached the hospital. A nurse came to meet them. While Claire explained what happened, Jennifer helped the man out of the car. He said something angry to the nurse, but after a few seconds, he went inside with her. "What a difficult man," said Claire crossly. "No, thank you, nothing at all." "Some people never say thank you," Jennifer replied. "Forget it." When they got back to Maxim's, they saw a police car with its blue light flashing outside. A crowd was standing near the door. Jennifer and Claire pushed through the people, trying to get inside, but a policeman stopped them. "You'll have to wait here," he said. "But we ordered dinner we haven't eaten yet," said Claire. The policeman didn't reply. He was watching the restaurant through the glass door. Something was happening inside. Then a waiter opened the door, and 2 policemen came out, holding a young woman between them. It was the girl from the birthday party, the one with the sad face and big gold earrings. The police led her to their car and drove away quickly. Jennifer and Claire looked at each other. What an evening! They waited a few minutes, but the restaurant door was closed again, and the policeman still stood in front of it. Neither of them felt hungry anymore. They walked slowly toward the car. "Come on, Jenny," said Claire. "Let's enjoy ourselves. We're supposed to be having a night out." Jennifer didn't answer. Claire began to sing softly. "Come where the music's wonderful. Come where the food is fine. Let's all meet at Maxim's. We'll have a wonderful time." Jennifer frowned. "This isn't my idea of a wonderful time," she said. "I'm tired. I just wanted a quiet evening, a good meal, and an early night." "Then let's go to another restaurant," Claire suggested. "No," said Jennifer. "Let's leave it for next week. I'll walk home." They said goodbye, and Claire called, "See you next week." As she drove off, Jennifer walked slowly home. She felt sad and worried. Worried about her brother, Richard. She remembered how he came to see her earlier that evening, asking for money again. He was always losing jobs and never had any money. A year ago, he even had some trouble with the police, but Richard never cared. He always laughed and asked Jennifer for more money. Their parents were dead, and there were no other brothers or sisters. Jennifer, 15 years older, often felt responsible for him. As she passed a jewelry shop, she stopped to look in the window. The lights were still on. She saw some earrings and remembered the gold ones the girl at Maxim's had been wearing. They were large, shiny, and expensive, but they didn't suit her sad young face. Where did she get them? Jennifer thought. She smiled a little. Maybe the police were asking that same question now. Chapter 2. A visit from the police. Jennifer did not sleep well that night. She woke up feeling tired and unhappy. When she arrived at Dr. Gibson's surgery the next morning, the waiting room was almost full. Another busy day, she thought. Just then, she heard the doctor's car outside. He came in quickly and went straight to his room. 3 hours later, he finished with his last patient. Jennifer brought him a cup of coffee and put it on his desk. "Thank you," he said. As she turned to leave, he called out, "Wait a moment. I want to talk to you." His voice sounded slightly annoyed. "There was a phone call for you about an hour ago. You were busy, so I answered it." "Oh, who was it from?" Jennifer asked. "Let me check. I wrote it down somewhere." He moved some papers around on his desk. "She said she was a friend of your brother's." "My brother? Why would she call me?" "Ah, here it is." He handed Jennifer a small piece of paper. It had one word on it, Wendy. "She didn't leave a number," he said. "She said she'll call you again at home." Jennifer looked at the name. Wendy? Wendy. Who? She wondered. "Thank you, Dr. Gibson," she said politely. "And please," he added, "tell her not to call during surgery hours again." "I'm sorry, it won't happen again," Jennifer said quickly. She wanted to explain that she didn't even know this Wendy, but she decided not to. After the doctor left, Jennifer was alone. She thought about the message. She knew a few of Richard's friends, but none named Wendy. Still, Richard often changed girlfriends, almost as often as he changed his shirts. Jennifer had stopped trying to remember their names. That evening, when Jennifer arrived at her flat, she heard voices upstairs. 2 men were standing outside her door. One of them stepped forward. "Miss Walton?" he asked. "I'm Detective Barrett. We'd like to ask you a few questions. Can we come in?" Jennifer opened the door, and the 3 of them went inside and sat down. "It's about Mr. Richard Walton," Barrett began. "He's your brother, isn't he?" "Yes," said Jennifer quietly. Barrett's voice was soft, but there was something cold and hard in it. His light blue eyes stayed fixed on her face. "When did you last see him?" he asked. "Last night," Jennifer answered. "And before that?" "I'm not sure, 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe." Barrett's eyes didn't move. Jennifer began to feel uneasy. "You didn't see him last weekend, then?" he asked. "No. Try to remember. Did he come here last Saturday evening?" "No," she said firmly. "You're sure?" "Yes, of course I'm sure." Barrett's voice grew louder. "You didn't meet him somewhere else? At the airport, perhaps?" "No, I didn't," Jennifer said, her voice shaking a little. I haven't seen him for nearly a month until last night. Last night, Barrett repeated. Tell us about last night. You took a man to the hospital from Maxim's restaurant. Yes, Jennifer said. A friend of yours? No, I'd never seen him before. He fell and hurt himself. People said he had a heart problem, so I went with him to the hospital. That's all. Barrett raised his eyebrows. You never saw him before. That surprises me, Miss Walton. His eyes watched her closely. Didn't you know that man was Mr. Joe Kelly, your brother's boss? Jennifer looked shocked. No, I didn't. Really? Barrett said slowly. You didn't know him. That seems very strange, don't you think? Jennifer felt anger rising inside her. She stood up and faced Barrett. Look, detective, I'm getting tired of these questions. You ask and ask, but you don't tell me what's going on. What's the matter? Is Richard in trouble? Barrett raised his hands. All right, take it easy. He gave a small smile, but his cold blue eyes never softened. The other detective whispered something to him. Then Barrett continued. Your brother, what do you know about his girlfriend? His girlfriend, Jennifer repeated. Yes, Wendy. He works with her at Joe Kelly's office. Wendy, Jennifer thought quickly. The same name as the phone call that morning. She tried not to show her surprise. She looked at Barrett and said calmly, Richard doesn't tell me about his girlfriends. Barrett smiled slightly. Oh, I think he's told you about Wendy. They're very close. They even went to Germany together last weekend, wasn't it? He asked, turning to the other detective, who nodded. The second detective moved a little closer and spoke quietly to Barrett. She doesn't know anything about this. You'll have to explain it to her. Barrett nodded and turned back to Jennifer. We're looking for some stolen jewelry from Germany, he said. We believe your brother knows something about it. You won't like this, Miss Walton, but your brother works for a criminal, a thief. One day he's going to get himself into serious trouble. Jennifer stared at him. But my brother lost his job yesterday, she said quickly. He told me so last night. He doesn't work for that man anymore. Barrett gave a cold smile. Maybe he doesn't. Or maybe he just wants people to think that. He leaned forward slightly. If you don't want to see your brother end up in prison, tell him to stay away from Kelly and from pretty young women like Wendy. Jennifer said nothing. She just looked at him with angry eyes. Barrett stood up, glanced at his partner, and they both walked to the door. Jennifer followed and opened it for them. Good night, Miss Walton. Thanks for your help, Barrett said. She waited until their footsteps faded down the stairs before closing the door. Oh, Richard, she thought sadly. What's happening to you? Why can't you stay out of trouble? She called Richard's flat, but there was no answer. Feeling helpless, she went to bed and lay awake for hours, worrying about her younger brother. The next day, Saturday, Jennifer worked only in the morning. When Dr. Gibson's surgery closed, she went home for lunch. After that, she planned to visit Richard and talk to him about everything the police had said. But as soon as she opened her flat door, the telephone rang. She ran to answer it. Hello, is that Jennifer Walton? A young woman's voice asked. Yes, this is Jennifer. Who's speaking? There was a short silence. Then the girl said quickly, You don't know me, but I'm a friend of your brother's. Are you free right now? I really need to see you. It's important. I'm just around the corner from your flat. Can I come up? I'll be there in 3 minutes. Before Jennifer could say anything, the girl hung up. Jennifer stood by the door, waiting. A few minutes later, her visitor arrived, and Jennifer's eyes widened in surprise. She knew that face. It was the young woman from Maxim's, the one with the big gold earrings. But today, she wasn't wearing them. The girl looked surprised too. "I saw you at Maxim's on Thursday night," she said. "You took Joe Kelly to the hospital. Are you Jennifer Richards' sister?" "Yes," said Jennifer. She studied the girl's face carefully. "Then you must be Wendy." "Yes," the girl replied softly. Jennifer stepped aside and let her in. They sat down in the living room. Jennifer looked at her coldly. So this was Richard's girlfriend, the girl who worked for the criminal, Joe Kelly. She had a beautiful face, but she looked nervous and unhappy. Still, Jennifer didn't want to feel sorry for her. "What do you want to see me about?" she asked sharply. It's hard to explain," Wendy began, looking down. "Richard told me about you. He said you're very kind, that you always help him. He gave me your phone number and said—" She stopped and hesitated. Jennifer waited. "He said I could ask you for help." Wendy finished quietly. Jennifer gave a small, tired smile. Always the helpful big sister, she thought. She looked at the girl's frightened face and spoke more gently. "All right then," she said. "Tell me everything. I hope Richard isn't in trouble again." "You see, I work for Joe Kelly," Wendy began. Then she started to tell her story, and Jennifer listened carefully. This was Wendy's story. Chapter 3. Wendy's story. "Kelly isn't a nice man," Wendy began quietly. "I've never liked him. I've worked for him for about a year. My father got me the job and told me to work hard and not ask questions. Kelly often gets angry. When he does, he shouts at everyone, and his face goes very red. I'm afraid of him, but I can't leave. I need the money, and it's hard to find another job." She paused for a moment, then went on. "Richard started working for Kelly about a month ago. We became friends, but we don't talk much about our jobs. Nobody at Kelly's really talks about the work. We don't even know exactly what his business is. He has 2 garages in town, and he buys and sells old cars. But he also buys and sells other things: furniture, old paintings, jewelry. I think some of these things are stolen, but I don't ask questions." Wendy's voice dropped lower. 10 days ago, Kelly called me into his office. I stood there, waiting. He started to say something, then stopped and looked down at his papers. After a moment, he opened his diary. "Wendy, what are you doing next weekend?" he asked. "I'm not sure, Mr. Kelly. How would you like to go on a little business trip? I'll pay you well for it." I was surprised and didn't answer right away. Then I said, "A business trip, Mr. Kelly?" "Yes, to Germany, just for the day," he said. "It's not difficult, but it's important. What do you say?" I didn't know much about his business, but I knew there was something strange about these trips. They happened every few months, and afterward there were secret meetings in his office, sometimes late at night. So I decided I didn't want to go. I said, "But I've never been to Germany. Don't you think someone else should go?" He stared at me. "I'm asking you, Wendy. I told you it's important. I have friends in Frankfurt. They'll give you 3 small boxes like egg boxes. You'll bring them back here. That's all." There's nothing difficult about that, is there? I didn't answer. Are you listening to me, Wendy? He said angrily. I need you to do this job for me. I looked him in the face and said, I'm sorry, Mr. Kelly. I've just remembered. I'm busy next weekend. I can't go. Then he jumped up and his chair fell over. Now listen to me, young woman, he shouted. You work for me, remember? I pay you. You'll go to Frankfurt, or there'll be trouble. He grabbed my arm and shook me. You'll leave on the first plane Saturday morning and come back that evening with the 3 boxes. And don't say a word to anyone. Do you understand? Then he walked out. Wendy's hands were shaking as she spoke. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. I wanted to tell Richard, but he was away on another of Kelly's jobs. I didn't know what to do. I was frightened. And Kelly knew it. He didn't mention it again, but on Friday he called me into his office. He gave me my plane ticket and some money. There was no way out. Saturday morning came. I went to the airport. While I was waiting, I heard someone call my name. I knew that voice right away. I turned around and saw Richard. Oh, Richard! I cried. I'm so glad to see you, but what are you doing here? Kelly told me to come with you to Frankfurt, he said. Look, here's my ticket. You mean he sent you too? What did he tell you exactly? Richard smiled. He said to come with you, to stay with you on the plane and in Frankfurt. Then I understood. He told you to watch me, didn't he? I said. When we were on the plane, Richard asked me about my work. He didn't know much about Kelly's business or about this trip. So I told him what I knew. I have to bring back 3 boxes, I said. Kelly said they're small, like egg boxes. I think they're full of jewelry, and I think it's stolen. Richard became very angry. Kelly can't send you on a job like that, he said. Why doesn't he go himself? That's the problem, Richard, I told him. It's easier for a girl. Kelly knows that. He's clever, but he also knows I'm afraid. That's why he sent you, to make sure I do what he says. For a while, Richard just sat there, thinking. Wendy continued. After some time, he turned to me and said, You're not going to do it, Wendy. You're not going to carry stolen jewelry for that man. Leave it to me. I'll think of something, a plan. Then he went quiet again. When we arrived in Frankfurt, we went to a hotel for breakfast. After that, Richard went to buy a newspaper. And then we waited there for about half an hour. We were supposed to meet Kelly's friends outside the hotel. When we walked out, 2 men were waiting for us in a white Mercedes. They drove us through the busy city streets and then out into the countryside. After a while, we stopped at an old house surrounded by trees. The men took us inside and led us into a dark room at the back. Then they left us alone. It was cold, so Richard gave me his coat. He smiled quietly to himself, as if he was thinking about something. We waited in silence. From another room, we could hear voices. Then the driver came back and took us upstairs. A short man in a dark green shirt was sitting at a desk. In front of him were 3 small boxes. He was playing with a pen and watching us closely. Richard spoke to him in German. I didn't understand what they said, but I heard Kelly's name, and the man started to reply. Suddenly we heard shouting and the sound of cars and footsteps outside. The man jumped up, pulled out a gun, and ran toward the window. But before he could get there, the door flew open and 3 or 4 policemen rushed in. They jumped on him, and there was a short fight. The police grabbed his gun and pushed him to the floor. Then an older man with grey hair came in. He was the police inspector. He gave quick orders to the policemen and then looked at us. "Are you all right?" he called in perfect English. "They didn't hurt you, did they?" He spoke to his men again, then came over to us and smiled. He shook Richard's hand. "Well done, young man," he said. "Thank you for your help." Then he turned to me. "And thank you too. You've both done very well. It's been a good day's work for us." I looked at Richard. He smiled a little, but didn't answer my question when I whispered, "What does he mean?" The inspector explained. "Your friend called us from your hotel this morning," he said. After that it was easy. We waited for the white Mercedes and followed it here. The inspector drove us back to Frankfurt in his car. When we reached the city, he took us to his office. He ordered coffee for us and said, "You've helped us a lot already, but we need your help with one more thing. There's still Mr. Kelly and his friends. We have a plan for them." "Oh yes," Wendy said quietly. He knew all about Joe Kelly. The inspector put the 3 boxes on the table in front of us. "We'd like you to take these back to England with you," he said. Richard and I were both surprised. "Don't worry," said the inspector. "Maybe you're thinking about the British police, yes? But it's all right. I'll speak to Chief Superintendent Edwards in London. There'll be no trouble for you. Now, listen carefully." He leaned closer. "Just give the jewelry to Kelly. He won't know that his German friends were caught. You mustn't tell anyone what happened today, not a word. That's very important. The British police will be watching Kelly. They'll wait for the right moment. Do you understand?" It sounded dangerous to me, but Richard said quickly, "Yes, of course we'll do it. Right, Wendy?" "Richard isn't afraid of Kelly," she said softly. So we agreed. We flew back to England on Saturday evening. It was nearly midnight when we arrived. We took the boxes straight to Kelly's house. He told us to wait and went into another room. When he came back, he looked very pleased with himself. He took something from his pocket gold earrings. "These are for you, Wendy," he said. "For your birthday next Thursday." "No, Mr. Kelly," I said. "I can't take them." "Really, I can't." "Of course you can," Kelly laughed. "You've earned them, and we must have a party for you. Let's get some friends together on Thursday night. Where shall we go? The Ritz? A disco? No, I know." And he began to sing. "Let's all meet at Maxim's. We'll have a wonderful time." I told him 3 times that I didn't want a party, but he wouldn't listen. He was too happy with himself. "Oh yes, Wendy," he said. "We must have a party, and you must wear the earrings. Then I'll know you're my good little girl." His mouth was smiling, but his eyes were cold. Richard leaned close and whispered, "Just agree with him, Wendy. Take the earrings. You can give them back later. We don't want anything to go wrong now." The next few days went by slowly. On Monday and Tuesday, everything was quiet at the office. Kelly didn't mention the trip to Frankfurt again. He stayed in his office most of the time, talking on the phone. No police came, and nothing happened. I started to feel nervous. Early on Wednesday morning, Richard came to see me. He looked serious. "Is he in yet?" he asked, looking toward Kelly's door. Not yet. Why? I asked. I want the keys to Kelly's office, Richard said. Just for a minute. But Richard... Come on, Wendy. He'll never know. You can't go in there. He'll be here any minute. It's too dangerous. Please, Wendy, it won't take long. I'll be out right away. But why? What do you want? Don't ask questions. Just give me the keys quickly. Of course, in the end, I gave him the keys. He opened Kelly's door and went inside. A few minutes later, I heard him shout, I think I've got something. I ran in. Richard was standing at Kelly's desk, holding a letter. He waved it in the air. This, he said, is going to help us. What do you mean? I asked. Listen, he said, and began to read from the letter. The eggs arrived last weekend, and they are now in my house. Be there on 18th of April, 11 a.m. The 18th? I said quickly. That's next Saturday. Just then, we heard a car outside. That's him, I whispered. Quick, put the letter back. You have to get out of here. I ran into my office and Richard followed me. I pushed him toward the kitchen door. Out there, quick, I said. At that same moment, the main door opened and Kelly walked in. Good morning, Wendy, he said calmly. He didn't stop, but went straight into his office and closed the door behind him. Richard slipped out quietly through the back. I didn't see him again that day. The next afternoon, Thursday, Richard phoned me. I knew from his voice that something was wrong. What's happened, Richard? I asked. I'm not working for Kelly anymore, he said. This morning, Kelly told me to do another of his little jobs, and I refused. He shouted at me and told me to go. So that's it. I'm finished there. And worse, he hasn't paid me, so now I can't buy you a birthday present. Oh, Richard, that doesn't matter, I said. But are you coming to Kelly's party for me at Maxim's tonight? I won't go without you. Please come. I can't, Wendy, he said sadly. I'd like to, but we can't see each other until after Saturday. Why not? What's happening on Saturday? And what about the egg boxes? What are the police doing? I asked quickly. Kelly says I must wear the gold earrings at the party, but I don't want to. They came from Frankfurt, from one of those boxes, and they're stolen. Oh, Richard, I'm so afraid. What should I do? Everything's going to be all right, Wendy. Really, he said quietly. I've got a plan. Just go to the party and don't worry. I'll see you soon. Then Richard hung up. And I haven't seen or heard from him since that day. Chapter 4. Another birthday present. Jennifer felt very sorry for Wendy. The girl's hands were shaking, and she was trying not to cry. Jennifer sat down beside her and put an arm around her shoulders. So what happened after the party on Thursday night, when the police took you away? Jennifer asked gently. Oh, it was terrible, Wendy said. They took the earrings, of course, and asked me lots of questions. I told them the earrings were a birthday present from Kelly, and I told them everything about the police in Germany. But they didn't believe me. They told me to go to the office on Friday and not to talk to anyone. And they said they wanted to speak to Richard. Wendy turned to Jennifer with tears in her eyes. What am I going to do? Why didn't they believe me? Haven't the German police talked to them? And where's Richard? I can't find him anywhere. She began to cry softly. Jennifer stood up. We must call the police in Germany, she said. I'll talk to that detective, Barrett. The one who came here last night, and… Just then, there was a knock at the door. Jennifer went to answer it. "Who is it?" she called. "It's me, Richard," came a happy voice from outside. Jennifer opened the door quickly. Richard was standing there with two policemen behind him. One was Barrett, and the other was a taller man. "Everything's okay," Richard said cheerfully. He smiled at the policeman. "And you're not going to lock me up, are you?" Jennifer looked at him in surprise. "I'm very pleased to hear that, but what's going on? Can someone please explain?" They all went into the sitting room. Wendy jumped up as they entered. When she saw the policeman, her face went white. Everyone began speaking at once, and Richard put his arms around her to calm her down. The tall policeman smiled and turned to Jennifer. "My name's Edwards," he said kindly. "I'm sorry about Detective Barrett's visit to you last night, but we didn't know about Richard and Wendy then. I just spoke to the Frankfurt police an hour ago. We already knew about the stolen jewelry in Germany and were watching Kelly. But the German police didn't tell us they'd caught the thieves last weekend, or about their secret plan with Richard and Wendy. They wanted to keep it quiet so Kelly wouldn't find out. But now we know everything, and it's all right." Wendy looked up quickly. "But what about Kelly and the egg boxes?" Barrett smiled. "You'll have to find yourself a new boss, Miss Wendy. Kelly's going to prison for a long time. We arrested him this morning. But Richard can tell you the rest. He's helped us a lot." The two policemen said goodbye and left. Jennifer turned to her brother. He was sitting close to Wendy, his arm around her. Her face was bright now, and she was smiling again. "Well," Jennifer said, "start talking, Richard." "I've already told Jennifer everything about last week," Wendy explained quickly. "And she was at Maxim's on Thursday night. But what happened this morning?" Richard laughed. "When I looked in Kelly's office last Wednesday, I found that letter about the eggs. You remember it, Wendy? Well, the German police told us to do nothing, but I wanted the British police to catch Kelly too. Maybe they were already watching him, but I wanted to be sure. So early this morning, I went to the police station and showed them the letter. They weren't very friendly at first, and they kept me there for a while. But they went to Kelly's house at 11 o'clock. They found him there with two other men who were buying the stolen jewelry from him. So they arrested Kelly and the two men and took the egg boxes too. Kelly was furious. He told the police that Wendy and I were the thieves. I kept telling Barrett and Edwards about the German police inspector and his plan. Finally, they called Frankfurt and spoke to the inspector there. He explained everything, and that's why we're here now." Richard laughed again, happily. Then he reached into his pocket. "And here's £20 for my big sister," he said with a grin. "And a little birthday present for my favorite girl." Jennifer smiled at him warmly. She suddenly felt proud of her brother. "You can keep the money," she said. "It's not important. But wait, I only gave you that £20 last Thursday. How did you get it back so soon?" Richard laughed. "I've got a new job. Started yesterday, and this time," he said with a wink. "I'm not working for a jewelry thief." Wendy opened her small present and smiled for the first time that day. "Oh, look," she said happily. "Gold earrings. They're beautiful." Richard laughed again. "They're only small earrings, Wendy, but I promise you this, they didn't come from Frankfurt in an egg box." The end. What would you do if someone you love was caught in a crime they didn't commit? Watch till the end to find out how Jennifer, Richard, and Wendy uncover the truth behind the gold earrings. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more classic stories retold in simple English. And tell us in the comments, who was your favorite character in The Girl with the Gold Earrings?